Hey, apparently we're live, Mike.
We're gonna roll with it, John. This is
Sorry, I think this is our first live hobby think tank, maybe.
yeah, I think it is.
Wow.
And we didn't know we were going live. It was unintentional. And then we looked at the comments and we were like, are we live?
There's people there. So first of all, I've had a heavy travel week. So Mike has been patiently waiting for me to become available to record this. And the reason we wanted to record it is because I thought it was a great topic that Mike came up with. And somehow, in my haste setting this recording up, we're live. So we hijacked Mike Moynihan's card collector channel.
Are we on baseball? Are we on baseball collector?
Mike's got a better audience. So
classic.
Anyway, so that's what we're doing. Mike, the Junk Wax here. Do you want to tell us what we're going to talk about tonight?
Yeah, so I think I've had as a topic for my channel for quite a long time now, doing the Mount Rushmore of cards by decade, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And then when we were trying to think of a topic for this week, I thought, this would be better as a conversation with John, who knows way more about vintage cards than I do, than it would be just as a solo conversation. Yeah, for anybody looking for a baseball collector, you are settling for the two of us. And we have, I don't think he intended for us to broadcast to his channel either, but he's getting it. And those of you, you're going to have opinions. Bring them on.
Yeah. This is not a, first of all, I'm curious as to how many we will agree upon. I think we're going to agree on 75%. I know that sounds ambitious, but I do believe we're going to agree on 75%. The 25% will be complete wild cards and out of the blue, I'm sure. Neither one of us saw coming. By the way, Neil Young once said, you paid for this and they gave you that. That's what you're getting here. You paid for Mike, baseball collector, but you're getting these two mooks from the East Coast. So two bads, as they say.
And for anybody who is familiar with my channel and the wall behind me, if you see some missing cards, it's because I am prepared to go through my Mount Rushmore, 4 per decade.
Okay.
Starting with the 50s.
So it's a pseudo draft here, I guess. Maybe not a draft because we can both have the same player, I guess.
Yeah,
the same card. Sure. So why don't you start off? We are going to go ascending or descending decade wise. What do you think?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's start with the 80s.
Okay. See, you already threw me for a loop, but okay.
Well, you threw me for a loop by asking.
Okay. So fire away, man. What do you got?
I'm going to start with the most obvious. One of the most obvious 80s cards. My favorite, 89 Upper Deck Griffey.
Yep.
Picked this one up at the National Autographed. That one, to me, is the best. I will accept arguments for maybe one other. What's yours?
Well, we're talking about Mount Rushmore cards. So are you talking personal, or do you think this is viewed from a wide lens or a far lens from the hobby? Do you think is this a personal thing, or is this what you think the hobby will recognize? This is a personal
I think
thing.
The hobby will recognize.
Okay. I agree with you 100%. 89 Griffey is a huge card to this day. And obviously the player was great. It was card number 1, right, for Upper Deck. It was their first card. They took a bit of a chance there. And it changed. I think it changed the game, especially in a very crowded time in the hobby, the late 80s. So, yeah, absolutely. I agree with that for sure.
And it just crossed. I know you don't like talking about pop reports, but I think it just crossed 100,000 graded just with PSA this summer. And
that's the most graded card, baseball card.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, right? Now I'm going to go with what is probably another no-brainer, if that's okay. It's the 84 Don Mattingly Incidentally, I do have the Griffey over in the display case, and I do have the 84 Donruss Manning. Widely viewed as one of the most beautiful cards in an era up until that point where there hadn't been a lot of creativity. Now, do you want to show us the back of that? What do you think of that seafoam green?
I love it.
You
I
love
do.
it.
It's
Okay.
I've talked about this on my channel before. I think my love for it is nostalgia. It's not necessarily design. It's
Right.
just nostalgia.
Miami Vice, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good looking card. And Donruss hadn't showed a lot of hope up until that point. There was not a lot. There wasn't a lot of meat on that Donruss bone up to that point. They weren't setting the world on fire with their designs, but that one did it. A lot of great cards in that one, right? I think Gooden is in there and Strawberry and Gwyn, maybe. It's a fun set.
Yep.
What do you got? Give us another one.
Well, I think the next most obvious one, and so far we've agreed, we're 2 for 2.
It's going to end real soon. Huh. Well, there we go, man. For sure.
1980
And
Topps, Ricky
yeah,
Henderson.
you know what? There's no doubt about that. In my opinion, there's no doubt about that for sure.
We are going to disagree on the next one, though.
We're going to just, well, you never know. But yeah, the 80, I consider that the last year of vintage. I think the 80 design is beautiful. I think it's underrated. I think I even like the back, right? The darker blue and the gray. I think they're good looking backs, good looking fronts. And the Ricky Henderson rookie card. Didn't have to share with a couple other mooks from Oakland.
Yep.
Am I going next?
You're up.
All right. So this one still has an impact on the hobby to this day because nobody can agree on it. I'm going with the 85 McGuire.
That was on my list as not an alternate, but apologies to the 85.
Yeah. And the reason being is we still argue about his true rookie card. Mark McGuire was a great player. I know he's polarizing, but he was a great player. Still argue about that. And it kind of it's one of those things people point to. What is a true rookie card? You know, when we didn't have logos and all that stuff. I think that's a pretty big deal. So
it's a Team USA card.
Team USA. Yeah, he's not in a MLB uniform. He wouldn't have a card, I guess a true rookie card until 87. So yeah, that's my number 4 for Mount Rushmore 1980s.
He broke the rookie record for home runs with 39.
Yep.
Yesterday on this day.
Whose record did he break? Do you remember that?
Ooh, man, you had to ask. I don't know.
I wouldn't ask if I didn't know the answer. Frank Robinson.
Yeah.
So what do you have? What's your number 4?
All right. This is going to be controversial, and I don't intend it to be controversial, but with apologies to the 86 Canseco, which is one of my all-time favorite cards.
Topps, 86 Topps?
Nope. The Donruss.
Okay.
The 83 Topps Strawberry. I am going with the F-Face Bill Ripken.
Wow. I think that is, I think that's a good choice. It's not my number 4, but I think that makes sense. I didn't think of that because I don't often think of Billy Ripken.
I know. Who does?
But it's still talked about today. Probably as much as the other ones, I would think, right? Wouldn't you think?
Yeah. And then you've got
Sweet.
the Dale Murphy reverse negative, which is
there's a lot of that stuff in there, though, right? Randy Johnson with the Marlboro and all that.
Yeah.
But that is, that one there. I do think it was a conspiracy to make that card, but it took a lot. Billy Ripken was not innocent in any of that, but it took a lot for that thing to get to press, from what I hear, and then all the various variations of that. So sweet, man. So we didn't agree on one, so we are at 75%, right?
Yeah, right at your prediction.
Yeah, and I'm surprised. You want me to do the 70s, huh?
Yeah, why don't you kick us off for the 70s?
So I'm going to start in the early part of the decade. I'm going to go with the 71 Thurman Munson because it's the first color action single player card, not single player, but dedicated player card, I think, in Topps long illustrious history. So
It's a mind-blowingly great card for its era.
Right.
It,
People love that people love that set, right? And then it's a landscape card and action card and all that stuff.
Yep, it was my number 2.
Okay.
It's such a great card. I had it until recently when I sold it, unfortunately. I wish I still had it.
Yeah. I mean, and then there's the player as well. I mean, there's a lot of really cool action cards from the 70s that of players we don't know or aren't in the mainstream, but that thing kind of has it all right there.
Yep. My number 1, I just did a video on this yesterday on my channel, Ozzie Smith.
Okay.
This is my childhood card that I got autographed through the mail at a private signing.
So why would that be a Mount Rushmore card for the hobby in general?
The facial hair, it's Ozzie Smith, who is the greatest defender of all time. It's his rookie card. There weren't a lot of, don't fight me, John. There weren't a lot of iconic 1970s cards of single players. You've got the 73 Schmidt, where he's with 2 other guys. You've got, am I upsetting you now?
No, because you know what? Because you can look at Pink Floyd and say, wow, none of those guys are great, but together they're great. The 70s were great together because there was no standouts.
Yeah, there are just a lot of cards, rookie cards, of guys with other guys that never panned out.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And and I'll talk about this next one, if that's okay. I picked the 75 Brett for one of those reasons, because we went through a bit of a period where most inner circle Hall of Famers, and Brett, surely there's no doubt he's a Hall of Famer. Most Hall of Famers of his caliber were on shared cards for the better part of the 60s and early 70s. So that was one of those first ones that stood back out. I would venture to guess from 1961 or from 62 on, it was tough to find a bona fide Hall of Famer on a single card. Yeah. So that's why I picked Brett. Obviously, that card's loved by everybody.
Yep.
So was he on your list? He was. You pulled him off the wall, right? All right.
He
so
sure was.
On that.
Yep.
All right, fire away.
My next one, I couldn't find it. I've got it here somewhere. It is a multiplayer card, but it's the only one with 2 Hall of Famers. The 78 Trammell Molitor. Because it has 2 Hall of Fame rookies on it.
Right. Yeah, that's a good choice. I do not like any of the quad rookie cards from the mid 70s.
There are a lot of them.
Yeah, I didn't like from 75, 76, 77, 78. I think that was a bridge too far to put 4 players in the card like that. And, it should have been 2-player cards, I would think, or something, but 4 players was a reach for sure.
It is better than the quad floating heads cards of 1963.
Sure, but we're still talking about those as well, right?
Yeah,
it's fun to talk about that. I did put the Mike Schmidt in there. The Mike Schmidt rookie just made the Baseball Card Hall of Fame this year. So I think right there that carries a little bit of weight that enough people think that card's iconic or belongs on top of the mountain.
Yep. It made my list with apologies too. It was the 73 Schmidt, the 75 Yount, 74 Winfield, and 78 Eddie Murray.
Yeah. 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 I mean, but they're all kind of clumped together, I think. Do you know any big Dave Winfield collectors? He's one of those guys that just kind of, had a lot of cards, but not a lot of people are saying I'm a Dave Winfield PCer for some reason. Maybe he played on too many teams. Maybe it was his personality. Who knows? A lot of people talk fondly about him, especially his multi-sport prowess, but not a lot of hobby love, I would think, right?
Now, I'm going back to the 80s, my list here. I missed one. I gave you... Oh, no, I'm sorry, I didn't. I missed the Topps Traded Ripken.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to talk about. So I would venture to guess that the year before that the Valenzuela was a bigger deal
Hmm.
because it was in the moment. Cal Ripken was a good player in 1982, but Fernando
Yeah.
captivated the entire country in real time.
Yep.
So there were two cards in real time, and at the height of his greatness, right,
Yep.
which was pretty cool. But I'm on the fence about my feelings about those early traded sets. I think it just went. I don't think two options in 1 year was the right way to go for the rookie cards. So that was a nice trip back to the '80s, but I just don't. Yeah, that might be a whole other episode. The advent of the true traded sets in the '80s. That angered me more than the Mike Schmidt comment. So where did we end up here in the '70s? Did you pick all yours? You picked
I
Ozzy.
went through my 4. Yep.
You did Ozzy, Brett. Who else? Munson.
Agreed with you on Munson
And what
and
was your fourth?
Trammell Molitor.
Trammell Molitor. That's right. So here you go. I bet you didn't expect this. The 1979, which I think is not a good set, even though you picked Ozzie Smith, the Bump Wills card. So the Bump Wills Blue Jays card is one of those. I think for the most part, up till that point, the errors, the uncorrected errors or the corrected errors were kind of very subtle, but there was nothing subtle about the Blue Jays banner on the Bump Wills card. And I have so many different kind of Bump Wills cards at this point. I have uncut sheets. I have the Rangers one, the Blue Jays, but they corrected that mid-season, and it was a glaring correction. So I'm not quite sure, unless you were a deep hardcore collector in the 70s and 60s and earlier, that you really paid too much attention to errors. But man, that one stood out. That's, that let everybody know that there was an error on that card. And I think it belongs on the baseball card, the 70s Mount Rushmore for that reason.
Fair.
Yeah.
Big impact.
So it's a fun card, right? And it's
Yeah.
it's not like the 74 Washington National League Padres cards where it was meant to be. It was just something happened in the printing process or the design process where he was a Blue Jay for a little while. So yeah, that's my 70s, and we actually went 50% on that, by the way.
All right.
Yeah. So we can rally maybe. So I found the 60s to be the most difficult time. I think I texted that to you recently.
Yeah.
The 60s were tough for me, not because, there's so many great players in the 60s, but iconic Mount Rushmore type cards. I barely came up with 4. So
And
what do you have?
Did we lose our audience? Did we bore everybody to death, or are we just not getting comments?
We're not getting comments, and probably rightfully so.
Okay.
It says 19 people are watching, but I doubt that. So 19 people are probably feverishly texting Mike Moynihan right now.
Where are you?
Where are you, man? When's this opening act coming off? So Mike will be back at the end of the show. Mike will come on and show you all his new, all 350,000 cards he picked up this weekend in the garage or the basement. So, but stick with us. We'll get to that soon. But 60s, give me a 60s card.
60s was tough. I have to start with my guy, Yaz. It is a pre-rookie. Our guy. It's a pre-rookie because he never played in 1960.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, that was weird, huh? Because he's a star rookie in 61 with the same picture, but he was a rookie card. So that card, I agree with you. Obviously, it's my favorite card, but it's the first time I believe that we start to hear about rookies on cards, or rookies called out on cards. So, McCovey was a big one in that one because I think he got the rookie trophy as well as having the rookie card. But that was a pretty big. I think that was a pretty big step. We talk about rookies a lot now, and that's obviously a big step in card history. So I have the Yaz as well as you do. So probably agree on this next one, the 63 Pete Rose.
I had 63 Pete Rose with apologies too.
Why? Because he's a jerk?
No, I appreciate Pete Rose's, let's just say, impact on the game,
Mhm.
positive impact on the game, which I know there was plenty. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's a terrible card.
Well, let me tell you a little story, Mike.
Yeah, I love
So
John story.
for
By the way,
those of us
if I can just interrupt just for a second,
yeah.
John Keating, That 70s Show, Twitter account is the best follow on Twitter. Anybody should go and follow
Why
John. I'm not
would you
on Twitter
say
very
that?
much. I'm not
Okay,
on
I appreciate
Twitter very
that.
much, but
I appreciate that, man. That's nice of you. So listen, people my generation, I was born in 68, and Pete Rose played for the Phillies, obviously starting in 79 and 80. Wasn't my favorite Philly, but he brought a championship to Philadelphia. There's no doubt about that. That card, though, the march to break the National League record and then the march to break Cobb's record sent that card into the stratosphere in the early 80s. There was there was no card more in demand than that one. I can tell you that in that time. I'm not saying it was the most valuable one, but the Rose rookie was the hottest thing on the face of the earth as far as cards, and also led to a massive amount of counterfeiting as well. So it's not an appealing card. He's not an appealing man. Good baseball player. People argue about his baseball prowess, which cracks me up because you don't get 4,000 something hits and not be fairly good at what you do. But the impact that card on the that had on the hobby was pretty significant. So I have no qualms about that being right up there, just because of that. Like again in real time, early 80s, that was the biggest card on the planet. The biggest grail card, I guess you would say, for people.
I have no qualms with it either.
Yeah.
I had it as probably my fifth, so I'm qualmless.
Qualmless?
63 Pete Rose.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a point to make. It wasn't a very good one, but I was
About my
going to make it
Twitter
anyways.
account. You remembered my Twitter account, but you can't remember your points.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so you owe us one here.
Yeah, the 60s. I'm out of order just because I have this one and I don't have my other two.
Oh,
Reggie Jackson,
wow.
1969.
A true rookie card. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have I told you the stories about that? The rumor has it that Reggie bought a lot of those cards up, and then they all went up in smoke in his house.
Oh, I didn't know
house. That. Yeah, so there was a sort of a manufactured scarcity, I think, and then by himself that became a real organic scarcity. So yeah, that's the rumor.
Wow. I remember my Pete Rose point about his 63. Okay. You mentioned it's counterfeited a lot, or was at one point.
Yeah.
I have found that there are examples of people getting that counterfeited card signed, knowing or suspecting that it's counterfeited, and then sending it to PSA, sending it to PSA, and not having them authenticate the card, just having them put trading card.
Yep.
With a Pete Rose signature, legit Pete Rose signature.
So that's 4 figures. Yeah, 4 figures, right? That's crazy. Yeah, that's so that's a cautionary tale there. Don't buy one of those for that very reason, because Pete Rose is still signing up, often. So signing a fake rookie card and then getting it slabbed is pretty sneaky. You would think that Topps would still authenticate cards, but I guess it doesn't make any sense to do that, huh?
Yeah.
Because it's no different than any other piece of paper to them, I suppose.
You might have convinced me that I'm wrong about Pete Rose, about the 63 Topps Pete Rose.
I just, like I said, son, I lived it, and that was the big deal, and I, it's interesting. I guess the card that usurped his popularity in the hobby may have been those early Mattingly's, the 84s. So up till that point, though, Rose was pretty red hot in the hobby. So think about that. Don't make a commitment. You can think on it, man.
That's okay. What was your next one?
I had the 68 Nolan Ryan,
Yep, me
Jerry
too.
Coos man, which makes sense, right? It's I'm not sure that was the biggest card in the 80s, but as early 80s, but as his career went on, certainly a lot of folks of your generation, the JWE people, revere that card. That's like usually chapter one of card collecting for them, you know. So yeah, it's a big card for sure.
Nolan Ryan played well for 25 years, and Koosman played well for his career. He's
Mhm.
not in the Hall of Fame, but had a great career. And it's Nolan Ryan is revered and loved by several generations of people who, or at least a couple, that got to watch him play.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's weird. He went from New York to California, basically pitched in anonymity for many years, and wasn't even the number one pitcher on the Astros when he came back into the kind of the spotlight. You know, he's behind J.R. Richard and maybe even Joe Niekro at the time. So, but yeah, you don't find too many people saying bad things about that card. It's a very popular card to this day. So,
Yep.
give me one.
I'm actually going to agree with you on the Pete Rose. I'm canceling
Okay.
my other ones.
All right.
I had the McCovey. You
Yeah.
mentioned the McCovey.
Poor Willie. Yeah, it's a great card, right? And like I said, it's got the rookie cup.
Yeah.
Had a great year, a great rookie year. 59, I think, was the rookie year, right? So he didn't have a card that year, but unfortunately, nobody's going to crowd Yaz out of that, right? Yaz is going to be that guy. So
I
you
also
picked
love the Lou Brock. I don't like that set.
Really? The 62 set, I don't like it either.
I don't like it at all, but I do like the card.
Okay. It's fair enough, man. You ready for an odd one?
Yeah.
It's a 68 Topps Clemente Test 3D one, right? Which we didn't we had some holograms in the early 60s. You might not know that. They're just kind of team, I think, football team cards, stuff like that, foil cards, but the 3D card like that, that's the first of its kind, and it certainly wasn't a widely, it wasn't released at all, right? So it's a tough card, but it's pretty, it had its impact on the hobby. I got to hold one of those at the National. I think it was an 8, so fun. 60s were tough. Like I said, what'd you come up with your fourth? Well, you poached my Rose, so you
convinced me on Rose.
Okay.
I didn't poach it. Yeah, I already went through my other ones that I had.
Okay.
The 50s.
So Yaz, Reggie Rose, and who? Let me write it down here.
Ryan.
Oh, you agreed with Ryan. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. All right, 50s.
50s were difficult for a different reason. There were so many cards to pick from.
You could pick 4 from one set if you wanted to, right?
Yeah. There's just, and I don't have any of them. I don't have a single card that's on my list. I have 8 cards listed. I picked 4 of them. I don't have a single one of those 8. Well, the most obvious is the 52 Mantle.
Yeah, you can't argue with
apologies
that.
To the 51.
Don't apologize. Mantle. I am unapologetic, and what's interesting about that card, Mike, is that there's a lot of them, right? Yep. And they're all out of the hands of, out of reach of most collectors. But it's not like the Wagner where you don't see many of them. You go to a decent sized show, you see a bunch, and it's got a story, right? Got a couple stories.
That has 10 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's got a legendary story. Mickey Mantle, obviously, he wasn't the greatest player ever, but he certainly was the right player at the right time in New York, and in the hobby. Boy. So I'm gonna do another easy one here. It's the 53 Bowman Pee Wee Reese.
Yes.
Okay. And 53 Bowman, I believe, post-war, 53 Bowman was the first to have multiplayer cards. So we have a couple in there. And the Reese, even though it's a Pee Wee Reese only card, there is another player in that card, but we have the Berra, Mantle, Bauer, and we have the Rizzuto and Billy Martin cards. But the 53 Bowman Reese is an iconic card.
Yeah.
That was on your list too?
It was.
All right. So we
but
both
not in my
have.
top 4. It was not in my top 4.
Oh, you're kidding me. Well, we were
No.
only supposed to pick 4.
I know. I made a list and then I ranked them and I said, okay, here are my top
Okay.
4. That
So
was on my list.
give me another one then.
My next one is the 54 Hank Aaron.
Oh, dude, that's
Weak?
I think it's like weak. That's like saying Friends is your favorite TV show.
Oh, God. That's the
Pretty weak,
worst
man.
insult. Friends was terrible.
Hey, it's a great card. It's a great card, and I love it. I'm fortunate enough to have one, and it's just beautiful. But I don't, man. It probably does belong on a Mount Rushmore, but I went a little,
Flavor?
crazy. Yeah, I just went in a different direction, and perhaps I'm a little too nuanced. But most people would have that card on their Mount Rushmore for the 50s. But like you said, there's
Well,
so
if
many.
most people would have it, then that makes it.
Yeah. That's me. That's my mea culpa right there. I'm saying I'm the moron. But I picked 2 my other 2 besides the Reese and the Mantle they're a little bit more obscure, but I think that they hold a lot of weight. Uh as the kids say, if you know, you know. So that's why I picked the other 2 over that one. That's a little too mainstream for me, I guess, which is why it should be on Mount Rushmore, right?
So what's your next one?
I went with, like I said, we could talk about a lot of the 52 tops. I think the Andy Pofko is a great card because it's the first tops, essentially the first tops of many that would come afterwards, other than the 51s, but really the 52. But I picked its opposite, the opposite end of the set, the most expensive rookie card, tops rookie card, and that's the Eddie Matthews.
Eddie Matthews. Yeah.
So that's why I went with that, because again, we put so much value on rookies, and that's the most valuable tops rookie card, which surprises some people, right? But it's true for many reasons. High series, the back of the at the bottom of the stack, I guess, with rubber bands and all that fun stuff that got dumped in the river as well, and it's Eddie Matthews. So that's why I did that.
Yep.
And he's a Boston Brave in there.
Yep, I see that.
Yeah.
No arguments.
But again, it's obscure, but I think it definitely has weight. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not picking anything surprising here. I'm going with my next one, Clemente rookie, 55 tops.
Yeah, it's a good card, but I think it's butt ugly, truth be told. And it was repeated in 56, right?
Yeah, I was going to say.
As was the Aaron.
56 better.
Everybody else was. Yeah, I mean, Clemente, great player, but I almost toyed with picking the 65 Clemente in the 60s. I did pick the 68, but the 65 is just a gorgeous picture. He had a lot of great looking cards, and the 55 and the 56 weren't 2 of them, unfortunately.
Plus 65 is the best design. So
yeah, and even his 72, that could have been in the top. That would have been in my personal top 4, the 72 Clemente, because it's a gorgeous card with him throwing a ball in the air. So, yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming with that, but I would disagree with that. Clemente has become real hot, but I wouldn't put him up on the Mount. No, I wouldn't do that. Now, this next one's going to be weird too. For me, it's the 54 Bowman Ted Williams. Okay. Because it was pulled from circulation.
Yeah.
Right. So there's that story there. He shares a number with Jimmy Pearsall in that set. I think it's 61. But it's also kind of indicative of what was going on in the 50s with all these contracts. You know, we don't see Stan Musial on the Topps card till his All-Star card in 58, right? And Ted was in and out of all the sets, the Bowmans, the Topps, and then he had his own set. So I think that that's an interesting card because it was pulled from circulation, and it's a card I'd like to have. And yeah, and it's Ted Williams, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I've always felt like he looked so awkward in that picture. He's kind of like, I don't know, it's weird.
It's like it's cold, right? And he wants to go inside. The sky is dark in the back and all that stuff.
But he is smiling, which
is rare.
Ted Williams didn't smile a whole lot.
Okay, so, yeah, what do you got? What's your last one?
Well, my next one is yet another, not only iconic card, but a rookie of an iconic player, 55 Koufax.
Okay. Yeah, they don't stand out to me for some reason. Yeah, they don't stand out to me, but yeah, great player, and he really didn't do anything for another 5 years or so,
Yep.
6 years maybe. So you picked 2 cards from the 55 set.
Yep.
So you like that set, or you just think those cards stand out amongst all the others?
Yeah, those cards. I want them.
You picked no Bowman cards. Is that done on
Correct.
purpose, or is you
No.
just okay?
Nope. I have several in with apologies too.
I'd pick the 50 Jim Bunning Bowman. If I had a few more choices, I'd pick the Andy Pofko. And I would, it'd be easy to pick other mantles, but there's no sense in doing that because, any of the mantles could be, a lot of the mantles could be in anybody's top 5 or 10 of the 50s.
What about the 54 Ernie Banks, 59 Bob Gibson?
57 no. Frank Robinson. Nah,
yeah.
Big cards, but they don't stand out. I actually like, aesthetically, I like the 54 Banks more than the Aaron for some reason, but that might have to do with the repeated pictures in 54 and 55 and 56 that they used for Hank.
Yeah.
The Banks cards in 54 and 55, different photos. I just like that Ernie Banks, fresh-faced Ernie Banks.
Yeah. He was still fresh-faced in his 1969 card.
That's a great point, man. Yeah, so that's that, man. Maybe we can well, the next episode we'll do iconic minor league cards from each decade, the Mount Rushmore of 30s through 50s minor league cards. So we'll brush up on that, I guess. Yeah.
I'll be doing some research.
It'll be a 2-minute episode. So cool, man. Well, anything else? You got any other cards you just want to call out, or no? You think you covered them all with the as we went?
Yeah, I mean the 51 Bowman Mays and Mantle, but
I think we agree that 55 was difficult because of the volume of options.
Yeah.
What was your most difficult decade to pick?
For me, it's the 80s. There's so many
there as well.
Great cards in the 80s. Yeah. Well, there were a lot of sets.
Yeah. I was stuck on 3 in the 80s. I had Ricky, Mattingly, and I knew about McGuire. For some reason, I was sold on that, but I forgot about Junior. I'm like, and I always consider that one of on the Mount Rushmore maybe of the hobby, which is strange. And I was like, I was completely drawing blanks on him for just that decade. So
yeah,
but that was fun, man.
Yeah, I'm glad you had fun.
When you proposed that topic, it really made me excited because it got me thinking about cards and all that stuff. So that's what it's all about. So well done with that, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun, John.
Thanks for bearing with me. It's been a tough week, so I appreciate it. And I appreciate you being available as my boss continues to call me throughout this this episode. So
we're probably fired from Hobby Think Tank now.
That's probably what it is. So yeah, I think we were taken off the air by Mike Moynihan, but thanks, Mike, for letting us crash your channel. Hopefully this thing will be posted back onto our regular home at Mitch Clear Media. Greetings to all. Good night. Be safe. All that stuff. Any last words, Mike?
Nope.
Nothing. No last words. All right. Thanks all. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.